guys, this is Comic Uno, and today I'm doing Comic Uno episode 226. And this show we review all the comics I read this week in one show. We go worst pick of the week to best pick of the week and everything in between. So let's get started. Number 19 for me this week was Avengers issue 677. I'm not feeling this arc so far. I do want to see how it plays through to see how it's going to affect the Marvel Universe, but I'm just not really feeling the character interactions, and the plot is very slow for me. So overall, I gave this issue 2 stars. Again, sticking with it. Artwork is good, coloring's good, but just not feeling the story. So that was number 19. Moving on to number 18, which is the Amazing Spider-Man issue 794. Pretty much all about the Zodiac people. And I did not like their arc when they were first introduced. Probably one of my least favorite Amazing Spider-Man arcs from the recent run. And still don't really like them here. I just was not feeling this storyline until the ending, where we actually do get Norman Osborn in the storyline you actually want. Where he does have the Carnage in front of him, which was spoiled on Amazon, I believe, that this was going to happen, so it wasn't too much of a, big surprise, but I did like the artwork. That was definitely the best aspect of the issue, but I really didn't like the story for this one, so giving the Amazing Spider-Man issue 794 2 stars, and that was number 18. Moving on to number 17, which is X-Men Blue issue 20. So this will be the last issue of X-Men Blue I will personally be getting. This is not usually my X-Men team, even though I like picking up a lot of the X-Men books. This one is a little easier to drop compared to like X-Men Gold. But yeah, I was planning on dropping this after this arc anyway, especially because they're going into the Poisons, and this was kind of the ending of this first class X-Men anyways. But the thing I didn't really like about this one was the timey-wimey whiminess of it all. I feel like they tried over-explaining the whole entire timeline, and I just didn't enjoy it because of that. It was hard to kind of get into the character beats here, like with Jean and the rest of the X-Men facing Charles Xavier, Magneto potentially making this new brotherhood. Like, those are interesting beats that just weren't explored well enough here for me. And also the artwork feels crowded, just like the script. The coloring just doesn't mesh well for me. I don't know why I want to say Mitch, but mesh well for me. So X-Men Blue issue 20 gets 2.5 stars for me. And I didn't pick up the annual because, again, I wasn't following the Poison storyline or X-Men Blue after this. Alright, so moving on to number 16, which is Raven, Daughter of the Darkness. Yeah, Daughter of Darkness issue 1. I picked up the Raven miniseries from last year and overall enjoyed it. Didn't love the ending, but had to pick up this one because I wanted to see where this story would go. It's still Marv Wolfman who is writing it, which is awesome. He's creator of Raven. Artwork for me, though, here, I didn't really like. That was definitely the weaker aspect for me. Some of the designs, I definitely liked the artwork better in the previous miniseries. And also the villain. I didn't really care who was trying to get Raven, and of course we've seen so much with Raven and her dad. I actually wanted to see her explore more of her school life. That's the aspect I like about her character with this new DC Rebirth direction for her, and they only really focus on that side of her storyline a bit, and then they go back into obviously the darkness and her father, because it seems like that's the only storyline they want to say with Raven. But I'll still see where this one goes. I'll give a couple more issues a try, but this one didn't really wow me for a 12-issue miniseries. So Raven, Daughter of Darkness issue 1 gets 3 stars, and that was number 16. Alright, so now we're moving on to number 15. Just gonna take a sip of water. And number 15 for me is Action Comics issue 996. I like the Lois Lane stuff still. I like her trying to find her father. Some of the transitions could be better, though. So you have like 2 pages or 3 pages of Lois, and then you have this one random page of Superman, and then it goes back to Lois, and then you go back to Superman. Transitions are a little weird here. But I like the Lois storyline, I like her trying to find her father. It's something we haven't really seen with Action Comics. The Booster Gold and Superman story, on the other hand, though, seems really long, and it's aspects of Superman I feel like I've seen before, and also I'm not a huge Booster Gold fan, so I don't really get any enjoyment out of the team-up either. So I will say, though, the artwork is really good here. Love the detail for both the Lois and Superman storyline, so enjoyed that aspect, but not totally feeling the Superman Booster Gold storyline. I feel like it's been really long and just stalling for Action Comics issue 1000. So I'm going to give this one 3 stars. Not a bad issue, but not overwhelmingly great either. Alright, so moving on to number 14. I will say, though, I really like that cover. Anyways, number 14 is Detective Comics issue 973. Seems like Detective and Action always back-to-back on my countdown. But I like this issue more than I have been liking this series. I like what they've been doing with Clayface, and interesting cliffhanger that they actually, I guess, kill Clayface in the end. Maybe. Obviously, we don't know until we read the next issue. Maybe something will happen that he doesn't die, but I like that. Now, the reason this is lower, though, I feel like they could have done so much to get us into Clayface's head and just really follow his character journey, but I feel like it skips so much to other characters with this series that you don't get the full emotion you should with this Clayface story. So, Detective Comics issue 973 is still solid-ish, but I think they could have done so much more. They could have taken those emotions a step further. So Detective Comics issue 973 gets 3 stars. Moving on to number 13, which is Zodiac Starforce issue 3. It's Cries of the Prince of something. It's the 2nd volume of Zodiac. And this issue introduces even more Zodiac characters. I think they're from the UK. And this overstuffs the issue so much. Now, I still like the character interactions. It's cool that they're building this mythology a bit more. But the plot progression against, his name's not the prince, it's something else, against the villain, I feel like was so stagnant because you had to meet the other UK versions of the Zodiacs. And yeah, it just felt like an overstuffed issue for me that we didn't really get to see a lot from our main characters. So overall, I gave this one 3 stars. But still, the artwork is very anime feel, which I like, and a very magical girl feel, which is exactly what you should have with a series like this. Now moving on to number 12, which is Phoenix Resurrection issue 4. So this one's landing right in the middle. Artwork is an improvement with, let me see who the artist is. Ramon Rosales, who did Ant-Man, did the artwork here. I don't think it's his best work because it also feels a bit rushed. I feel like all of the Phoenix Resurrection artwork has felt rushed because it is a weekly series. But I do like this cleaner art style a little bit more than what we were getting. I think it's a bit more detailed than the previous artist, but still not as detailed as we usually get with this artist. But the storyline is interesting. It's finally our X-Men figuring out what's been going on with Jean, getting into her world, and deciding not to fight, and instead of Old Man Logan having a discussion with Jean, which is going to be really interesting for that last issue. But also it feels like that's really going to be your last issue. So maybe the pacing's a bit off for this book, but overall I thought this was kind of middle ground issue. At least there's some plot progression and good character moments, especially if you're a Jean fan. So Phoenix Resurrection issue 4 gets 3.5 stars. Moving on to number 11, which is Batgirl issue 19, which is kind of also this middle ground issue where the plot is pretty generic. There's a snowstorm and Batgirl has to figure out why is it snowing? It shouldn't be this cold. But what I like about this is actually bringing a lot of continuity. They bring up the annual from Batgirl when Batgirl teamed up with Supergirl, which was a really good issue, and even the Penguin storyline, which they focused a lot on his son in previous issues. So I like that they're bringing back this continuity from the series to figure out the mystery of, like, why it's snowing. So, also I did like the character designs of Batgirl's winter coat costume. I thought was pretty cool. So overall, it's not a mind-blowing issue, but I like the overall scope of the story if you've been following this Batgirl series from the beginning. So Batgirl issue 19 gets 3.5 stars. Now moving on to number 10, which is Betty and Veronica Vixens issue 3. And overall, I just have a lot of fun with this. It's this otherworldly storyline where we get to see kind of Grease meets I guess modern times, because you do see Veronica using a smartphone, so it's kind of strange because it feels so like 1970s, and you're like, oh, there's a smartphone, but in a cool way. I like that they kind of mesh time periods here. And it's cool just seeing these characters kind of learning their voices through this motorbike gang, and then having to go up against the Southside Serpents by the end, so we're gonna have to see how that turns out. Artwork, I do like that it's very classic Archie. There are times where I think facial expressions could be better, but overall I do like the style of the book. Again, it kind of has this timely factor to it. So Betty and Veronica Vixens issue 3 gets 3.5 stars. Now moving on to number 9, which is Regression, issue 6, which is a really solid issue. I like that we get to learn more about this world that Adrian's in, what his past lives are about, and there's this group of people that really want to know what it's about and kidnapped him. And then you have this other side where Molly and this detective are trying to figure out what's been going on with Adrian, also from another side of things. So I like the storyline. I thought it was very solid. I love the artwork for this book. It's creepy, but extremely bright. Love the style for this book. I will say I do miss Molly and Adrian's dynamic. That's one of the, I guess, small negatives of the issue, but really enjoy the story. So I feel like this is a very under the radar series. If you like creepy mystery, definitely pick this one up. So Regression issue 6 gets a solid 4 stars. And that is number 9. Now moving on to number 8, I'm surprised to see this one so high up, and that is Nightwing The New Order issue 6. I really enjoyed the first issue, didn't really like any of the middle, and then really liked the ending of this series, where we get to see Nightwing kind of learn from his mistakes, and even the heroes come together in a time where Lex Luthor kind of screws stuff up, of course, and they have to go up against him, and then the world changes by the end, and you have this touching moment with Dick Grayson's son, just looking back at Dick's life, and it makes you kind of want to read more from this world by the end. I will say the Lex Luthor stuff definitely felt rushed to me, but the overall message of the storyline made the scope of the miniseries worth it, even if it didn't really need 6 issues. I will say, though, the artwork is not as strong as it was with the beginning. There are times where I think facial expressions are a little weird, and there's some lines on the faces that I don't think were needed, and I also feel like the coloring kind of dampens the world. I know it's a gray type of morality world, but I wish it was just a tad bit brighter. So overall, like I said, I give Nightwing The New Order issue 6 4 stars. That was number 8. Now we're moving on to number 7, which is Jughead The Hunger, issue 3, and this is much improved from what we got with issue 2 and 1, kind of going back to the roots of what I really liked about the one-shot. We are learning more about this world. We learn more of a mystery behind the Cooper family, that maybe Betty's aunt is not exactly who she says she is, which was very interesting. And then we have finally an answer of who all the werewolves in Riverdale are, and yes, Veronica's a werewolf, Reggie's a werewolf, you got the principal as a werewolf, you have Cheryl, you have Moose, you got all these people that are werewolves, so that's interesting. Love the art for this book too. I just love the kind of the darkness complexion we have, and then those bright colors in the background, either yellow or red seeping through the whole book. Love the coloring here. And yeah, overall the story is really solid, and you get the point of view of these newcomers. You get the point of view of Jughead kind of learning about the werewolf world, and then Archie, who's learning about being a hunter, and then colliding together because they're best friends. What do they end up doing? Do they end up fighting each other? So I really enjoyed this issue. I thought it was solid. So Jughead The Hunger issue 3 gets a solid 4 stars. Now moving on to number 6, which is Bettie Page, issue 7. I've been loving this book. I think this is very under the radar, but I love the wittiness and just personality of Bettie Page here, where she obviously is a super spy, and it's not even about the villain. The villain I didn't really even care about, but she has to, like, save this thing, you know, an item, we'll just call it, her necklace, and she does all these witty things along the way to get away from the villain, like using her bourbon, or brandy, I'm sorry, her brandy, and spitting at the enemy and using the candle as like a flamethrower. I thought that was really cool, and Betty knowing how to use a boat. It's just a fun espionage storyline. So if you like spy stories, this is definitely worth picking up. Artwork is definitely solid here too. It works with again, the witty slash adventurous script that's going on here. So action-packed script. So I'm going to give Bettie Page issue 7 a solid 4 stars, and that is number 6. So now we're moving on to number 5. And number 5 for me is Wonder Woman issue 39. Love this cover too, with the kind of mix of Silver Swan. This is the variant cover. And with this issue, we get to see the Silver Swan versus Wonder Woman, and I really like all that character development from issue 38 is utilized here, where Diana obviously feels guilty, and Silver Swan's like, oh, it's all your fault, this is the reason why I'm this person, and Wonder Woman tries to talk her down and sees it's not going to happen, and then Jason gets into the storyline, and his throat gets cut by the end, and they're all falling down. You wonder what's going to happen to Jason. Obviously, you know Diana's going to be fine, but what's going to happen to her brother? The small negative I have here, though, is the dark side scene. I felt like that was very random. It was only about 3 pages, but still it didn't really fit here, and lost my focus and I think the pacing from this issue, because they added that scene. I thought it was a weird scene. But I love the artwork here, especially because this was more of an action-packed issue. Even though there's a lot of good character development, just gorgeous artwork there. So overall, I gave Wonder Woman issue 39 4 stars, and that is number 5. Moving on to number 4, and that is Doomsday Clock issue 3. I will say this is a bit of a slower burn compared to the other issues, just because there is a lot of jumping, but man, if you like Watchmen as much as I do, this is so much in the vein of Watchmen, and you do get to learn a little bit more about what's been going on and what has been changed, especially with the comedian. I love that opening scene where you actually see Ozymandias kill the comedian, but actually not kill the comedian because he's still alive. So I like those. I love the Rorschach versus Batman storyline, even though, again, it's a little slower, but by the end, you all know that Rorschach is very much Batman. So Batman deciding to put Rorschach in Arkham Asylum I thought was very fitting. And then you have some interesting action sequences with the Joker-related characters, the Mime and I forget the girl's name, but you know, the Joker type character slash Harley Quinn type character, where they in the end have to find Joker. So a lot of point A to point B stuff in this issue, but still a lot of cool character moments, and just the 9-panel grid slash you know, the artworks and even just the coloring, just bringing that tone back for Watchmen is so great. So Doomsday Clock issue 3 for me gets a solid 4 stars, and that is number 4. Now we're moving on to number 3, which is Black Magick issue 10. I really enjoy this series. I'm sad that we had to wait until March to get the next issue, but I especially love the artwork. I love the grayscale for this book. Let me just show you a good page. Here we go. Just a wonderful grayscale, but then when the magic's put into there, you really get to see that balance. Just the small touches of color here just work so well. I just love the look for this book. And this is an important issue. This is an issue we've been waiting for a while, because we've been waiting for Annalee and Morgan's child to be born. You know, she's been pregnant, very, very pregnant since the first issue. So you know the baby is going to be important. And it seems like the enemy has put a spell on the baby of some sort. We don't know why the baby's important, but what's going to happen with Morgan and Rowan's relationship after this, and will Morgan find out about the magical side of this universe, which I'm very invested to. So really love just Rowan trying to find her balance of the magical versus, you know, regular life she has, and it's spilling over here, definitely spilling over with this issue. So Black Magick issue 10 gets a solid 4 stars, and that is number 3. Moving on to number 2. I think this is like the first time it's number 2 and not pick of the week. But Go-Go Power Rangers issue 6. I still love this issue. I love this series in general. The artwork is just so expressive, and the mix of the Power Ranger action but with the daily lives is so well done here. But going into the storyline, this is a Billy storyline, a very interesting Billy story, where Billy feels like he overthinks everything, and he doesn't deserve to be a Power Ranger, and then he sees how Matt is instinctive, and even though that's not actually Matt, he says, why shouldn't Matt be the Blue Ranger? There's this awesome splash page by the end where you get to see Matt with the other Rangers with their helmets off and Billy questioning this. And then on the other side, though, you have Zach questioning, is Matt really Matt? So obviously this is all coming to a head. Very much a build-up issue. But you also have smaller storylines doing well here, too. You got Bulk running for... I think it was Homecoming King, and then you have Jason trying to deal with Trini's feelings of maybe having a crush on him. So I just really love the balance of this book, and I mean, it's just such good character development here, and that's the portion I love about Power Rangers, and the potential I always saw in Power Rangers, because they are interesting characters that are really fully being fleshed out here. So Go Go Power Rangers issue 6 gets 4 stars for me, and that is number 2. Moving on to number 1, and that is Marvel 2-in-1, The Thing and Human Torch. I'm a huge Fantastic Four fan. Haven't really been able to talk about Fantastic Four in a while. A, because they haven't been around, and B, because there hasn't really been a great Fantastic Four series in a while. I wasn't a fan of Hickman's run. I thought Matt Fraction's run was okay. I know, I think a lot of my friends on Frontline really enjoyed the Fantastic Four run a bit more than I did for Matt Fraction. So I haven't found a good Fantastic Four run in a really long time. But I always love collecting, like, Silver Age Fantastic Four. But anyways, I really love this. I love all of this. I love that Ben is trying to... you know, trying to be careful with Johnny's feelings, but he's also lying, but technically telling the truth, because he doesn't know that, you know, Mr. Fantastic and Sue are actually alive, but he just kind of gives that lie to Johnny for the adventure, and I love bringing back adventure into the Fantastic Four, and ironically, with the two people that know nothing about science, and I like that, and I love the flashback of seeing Ben and Reed have their first adventure with each other. It's just a really well done Ben storyline. And it really highlights Ben and Johnny's friendship so well. And, you know, Zdarsky usually is more of a comedic writer, but he does a really good job at only doing a couple of comedy scenes and really getting to the emotions. And then Jim Chung's artwork is just so perfect. I love the facial expressions, the look of this book. It's just, again, perfect. I especially like when Johnny flames on. I think that looks beautiful. Just a really well done book, and excited to see where this one's going to go. So Marvel 2-in-1 issue 2 gets 4.5 stars, and that is my pick of the week. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. This is Comic You Know. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter. Don't forget to like my Facebook page. Also, description below, there are links for my comic book, Like Father, Like Daughter. And don't forget to like the Facebook page of Like Father, Like Daughter. And I'll see you guys later. Bye.